all sat over there. The pastor's gonna, hopefully he's gonna.
One, two, 1, 2. All right. Well, again, thank you everyone for coming out to Glory here for our Missions Conference Banquet this evening. We are in the middle of the week. We started off with a great report. If you missed it on Sunday, I would highly recommend you going online and watching it because it is well worth your time. We had Bill Arvin and Steve Eckert from Reed Ministries here, and they shared fairly extensively about what's going on in Ukraine in particular. Their ministry exceeds just the Ukraine. It's a Eurasian ministry, but they're very familiar themselves very particularly with what's going on in Ukraine and their connections there, and both men have been there. I couldn't even tell you how many times Bill's been there, but I'm sure it's almost countless at this point. But it was great to really get kind of an on-the-ground report of what's being done there, and to know, for instance, some of the money was donated on Sunday, by today is probably already being turned into loaves of bread fed to refugees who are fleeing across the river that divides Ukraine, and is blessing people just that quickly through Reed Ministries. And the great thing with Reed is low overhead operation. All the money you gave is already in the Ukraine. So that's fantastic. So we started off with them. Tonight we have Coldwater Camp, and they are going to tell you all the details about that. Was once Mink Lake Camp, correct? Yeah, Mink Lake Wilderness Camp. And many of you are more familiar with that name of it, but they go by Coldwater, I think, now in all their documentation. And the Lane family, of course, has an extended relationship with them. And if you watch the photos as they scroll throughout in the lobby, you might recognize some people there because of that. And they're going to be sharing. Mike is going to actually introduce them here in a second. But the other thing is, this coming Sunday, we have Brother Dave, who's coming to share with us. And I think he is literally getting back into the United States now as we speak. If I remember his flights correctly, he was getting home on Wednesday evening, which is now, from the Middle East. He's been there for a couple of weeks. I've been following his journey in the Middle East. So Dave will be able to give us an update of the ministry that they're doing there. He's part of the News Service 2000. As I mentioned many times, we don't use Dave's name publicly, his last name particularly, because it just provides some protection because he ministers into a place that is not necessarily always safe to be a Christian. And so it's a part of the Muslim majority portion of the world where he does his ministries there. So therefore, Dave just asked we don't use his last name just for his own protection as he travels. So we have Dave again this weekend, and many of you have met Dave. He's preached for me on a number of occasions. He goes to one of our sister churches up in Superior, Wisconsin, in fact. And so real blessing, really great lineup this year. I'm excited to hear from these guys. They do some amazing stuff, stuff near and dear to my heart as a former Boy Scout camp director and all that good stuff. I know what they do and know what they go through. So I appreciate the ministry they have. And with that, Mike is going to come up because he knows them way better than I do. So we will give him the mic, and he will introduce them.
Thank you, Chris. I wasn't really planning on doing this until like earlier this afternoon, so I'll just keep it short and sweet. Like Chris said, I'm introducing Coldwater, or Kevin, tonight, and it's really near and dear to my heart because I've worked there for 2 summers and look forward to this being my 3rd summer up there. I remember back in 2018, that was my first summer working for them. There was like 11 of us on staff, and 2 of us were on the home team. And so we had to clean out all the outhouses, do all the mowing, and just keep the camp presentable. And now this year, we're gonna have 28 people on staff and 12 people on the home team. So that's gonna make cleaning the porta potties really easy. And that's just really showing how it's like growing over the years, and I'm really excited to see how it grows more and more in the future. So please welcome Kevin Sutton.
Thank you. Pop that in there. It's really good to be here. I come from a long line of Baptist potluck dinners. Which are always delicious. You've really upped your game here. That was amazing. That's why Eric has a big grin on his face. He loves barbecue so much. He's always happy. Let me begin so what I want to do tonight is give you a sense of what we do with our ministry. Coldwater Foundation is the name of it, a foundation for faith development and for leadership development. I'll talk through some of that, but I also want to talk about just the heart of, like, what are we doing right now in this present culture for our young people and for the people that we are serving. I'll share a little bit out of the Bible, some passages that I think will maybe help to illustrate the method, I guess, of ministry that we do. At the end, if we have time, we'll do some Q&A. So if you have any just questions, even if they're random or whatever you want to ask, we can do some Q&A. So jot your questions down or whatever, and hopefully by the end of the evening, you'll have a good sense of what our ministry is and how we're doing in that now. So like I mentioned, we are a faith and leadership development ministry, especially advocating for young leaders. What is it like to grow up right now? Okay. Oh, okay, I can step forward. Yeah, that's fine. Is that better? Okay. Close, okay. So what is it like to grow up right now? You know, what does it look like for a young person to grow up in the 21st century in this present culture? What does it look like right now to parent, to be a parent and to try to provide guidance and to try to see what things are needed and how to help and how to give direction? What is it like to parent right now? maybe a metaphor that works for both is the metaphor of fog, like being in a fog, like being lost in a way. I want to share, I was thinking recently about a friend of mine, a childhood friend. His name was Vince Letwin. I have no idea where he is now. Maybe he's here. Vince, if you're here, come. I'm going to tell a story about you. But I was thinking about Vince recently because he's Ukrainian. He lived just a block over from me. His parents spoke Ukrainian. His dad didn't speak any English at all. I spent a lot of time over at his place. He was a year older than me, and Vince, he was really cool, and I wanted to be his friend, and I wanted to spend time with him. And so my dad, when I was 10 or 11, I don't know, somewhere in there, he told me, as soon as you can start the outboard motor, you can take it out. Like you can go out and you can run around with it or whatever. We had a 9.8 Merc on a 14-foot Lumacraft boat, and we had this cabin, still have a cabin on a lake up north in Canada. And the lake is awesome. It's called Foundaion, and behind that is a lake that is even more awesome. No cabins on it, no roads to it, just pure green water, lake trout lake, just an amazing thing. So I thought, wow, as soon as I can start that motor, Vince and I can go and have an adventure. And so I practice, figure it out, choke it too much, flood the engine, can hardly pull it. Eventually I got it. And I don't know if I was 11 or 11 and a half or whatever, but Vince came up to the cabin and we went out on an adventure. So here's our plan. I just wanted to show him Foundaion, and we wanted to portage into Greenwater Lake. Out of Greenwater Lake runs this river, Greenwater River, that just dumps into Foundaion. It's not a super fast flowing river, but it's got a pretty good current, but you can still push the boat up through the rapids. And so we got all ready, got up early in the morning, a little bit of fog, but we figured we'll set out anyway. We'll go and do this. We're young. I can't believe my parents might be listening. I have no idea why you let us do this because we're pretty young. The river is about 4.5 miles from our cabin, and then up the river's another maybe mile, and then into Greenwater. So we set off in the fog, and maybe half an hour later, we can't see anything. Like we're in the middle of this lake. I'm pretty familiar, but I can't see. I have no idea where we are. I thought, well, we'll just keep chugging along. Eventually we'll get to land over here. Vince is up front looking for rocks. We're going slow. We're trying to look and see if we can see anything. Pretty soon we see land like here, and I have no idea where we are. And we just kind of trace the shoreline, and eventually the sun starts to glow from behind us, and I get the sense of where we are. We have to cross the lake to the other side, crawl our way up the shoreline to Greenwater River. I don't know how we did this, but we got our boat pushed up into Greenwater Lake. And somewhere along the way, the river is amazing. It's just perfect, like clear, just beautiful. There's a lot of bass in there. There's walleye at the mouth of the river, and then lake trout. And we had our fishing stuff, and we had sandwiches, and it's going to be awesome. We get into Greenwater Lake, right out in the middle of the lake, and it just gets dark really, really fast. The wind comes up, and it gets darker and darker and darker. And we decide to pull to shore. There's an island in the middle of the lake. It's called Shelter Island. I'm not making this up. So Shelter Island, we pull our boat up. Vince is stronger than me. He lifts the motor off the back, the transom. We get that up. We pull the boat all the way up. We flip it over, and we crawl underneath the boat and just wait for the storm to pass. And it is I don't know. I mean, it's a thunderstorm. It's a full-on pounding rain, kind of scary, you know, and we just hunker under there. Some long time later, we wake up. We had fallen asleep, and we wake up. There's no more rain. Everything is wet, but the sun's kind of coming out, a little trace of a rainbow. We get the motor back on the boat, and we're just tired and super hungry, and thought we should probably just start heading back, back home. So we make our way, to Greenwater River, go a little faster this time down the river, shove our boat down there, get back into it, run the river out to Foundaion, and 4.5 miles. By the time we get home to our dock, it's dark. We slept the whole day. And had no idea. Lost track of time. Lost track of lost our place. And I think my point is like fog. You get lost. You get disoriented. Storm comes. You lose track of what's going on. And what you think is going to happen doesn't happen. It doesn't happen at all. And something completely different happens. And, we finished the day, of course, victorious. Like we slay the dragon, like we conquered this lake and it was awesome. But it was not what we wanted. For sure, I wanted Vince to see, all the stuff, catch fish and all that. But, isn't that a good analogy for life? Like for how we live our lives forward, we don't know what's going to happen. So when I talk about the Coldwater ministry, I'm talking about how do we prepare people for a life that is unpredictable? How do we prepare people to live for Christ in the midst of the unforeseen, in the midst of what is unfamiliar, in the midst of what we can't really prepare for? And it raises big questions for us about how we do discipleship and how we equip young people, and not just young people, because that's all of us, really. It's the same scenario. We don't know what's going to be around the next corner. And challenge and disappointment and loss and change are all going to be our realities all of our lives. And that's what life is. It's full of surprises, and some of those surprises are full of suffering and full of difficulties for us. And so when we think about wilderness, what a perfect classroom, right? What a perfect classroom, because it's unpredictable, because it has the character of the unforeseen every single day on a wilderness trip. And so what an opportunity and a privilege that we have to spend time with young people and with our leaders, learning how to navigate in the midst of the unforeseen. It's very, very powerful. On top of that, there is, so I'll just give a quick overview, and then I'll talk about a problem that we're all encountering. We're based out of Mink Lake Camp. It's probably a 3.5-hour drive from here. We purchased the camp in 2015, but we've been kind of operating out of that even a few years before that. Our program is an outward bound style wilderness tripping program. So the classroom that we're using is wilderness, and trips are anywhere from 5 days long to 3 weeks long. Every trip goes out with 6 or 7 students, is a full trip, and then 2 leaders. Our leaders are trained by our team, and it's about 6 weeks of training. So we're going to show you a video right now. We'll just cue up this video. We'll just show you, and then you kind of get a picture of what it is, and then I'll talk about a problem that we encounter and what we're doing about it, and then kind of some of the heart of our ministry. So, yeah, I'm going to play that.
It's no longer just imagining challenge and imagining adventure, you're actually doing it.
The first trip I went on was extremely impactful for me and really changed my life and kind of changed the trajectory of my life.
There's something in us that even though we're really terrified, we think, man, maybe I could do that.
Coldwater is a wilderness program that utilizes the wilderness to develop young people in formative ways that get at the character of who they are becoming. The staff are trained to utilize the natural environment as a teaching tool, and it's one of the best teaching tools that exists. And Coldwater is perched on the edge of one of the most beautiful wilderness areas in the world.
When you put people into this wilderness experience, it presents that challenge for learning in the head to get reevaluated and for things to become truly known. That's because testing is present. Testing, and it's not paper testing, it's real life testing.
Coming here is just a great way to get people out of their comfort zone, get them into the wilderness and learning things that they've never learned before experientially. And when you learn something by doing it, it's going to stick with you. They can take these experiences that they've had here and apply that to their life and say, I've carried this canoe, I've carried this huge heavy pack, and now when this hard thing is happening to me in my life, I know I can do that too.
The kids and adults who come in to participate in the camps always leave with such amazing stories, and it changes a lot of lives. Coldwater does.
The relationships and the community that you get to build with your trip leaders and other students is just unreal and like nothing else.
It really allows you to reflect, after the challenge and think, okay, what happened there? What is God doing through this challenge? What is He trying to teach me about myself or about others or about His own character?
We spend our whole lives trying to prove that we're big. And you go into the wilderness and you recognize pretty quickly that you're small. And it's in this wilderness that we learn so much about the character and nature of God. A Coldwater wilderness trip is firsthand experience to remember that however far away from home we are, however difficult our day is, or full of unknowns it may be, He is with us and that He can be trusted. We just get to piggyback off of a perfect classroom that God's already had here waiting for us. When we talk about the challenge of navigating faithfully through life, we have to talk about the very real reality of cultural values, dominant cultural values that are the opposite of what our Christian values are. I would say that the dominant, if I was to pick one dominant cultural value of our day, I would say it is personal independent freedom or personal individual freedom. To be, so that each individual is their own authority. And whatever you decide you are, that's what you are. Whatever you see when you look within, whatever your within is what you can be. I would say that is the spirit of our age. And of course, Scripture warns us about the spirit of our age and warns us about the dangers of that, and also gives us a vision for understanding who we are, a source that is outside of ourselves, right? If we're to talk about spiritual growth or spiritual formation, like what is that? Well, that is really trusting that who God says we are, that's who we are. And so I want to read a couple of passages that address that. In Jeremiah 13, for my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and hewn themselves cisterns, broken cisterns that can hold no water. So we create our own source. We walk away from God, who provides living water, and not only that, but we just try to go find our own. We create our own source. Over in Jeremiah chapter 7, says this, "But this is what I commanded them, saying, obey my voice, and I will be your God, and you shall be my people, and walk in all the ways that I have commanded you, that it may be well with you. Yet they did not obey or incline their ear, but walked in the counsels and in the imagination of their evil heart, and went backward and not forward." And over in chapter 9, this is a great passage, one of my favorite two verses. "Let not the wise man glory in his wisdom, let not the mighty man glory in his might, nor let the rich man glory in his riches. But let him who glories glory in this, that he understands and knows me, that I am the Lord, exercising loving kindness, judgment, and righteousness in the earth, for in these I delight." And the last one, along with that idea of, we looking within to determine who we are. Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 23, "O Lord, I know the way of man is not in himself. It is not in man who walks to direct his own steps." That should be encouraging to us, because there is one who knows us better than we know ourselves, and one whose love for us far surpasses our own. And it is our intent on courses, first of all, three things are going to happen for a student who comes to Coldwater and goes on a course. Number one, they're going to get two instructors with them. And this is a picture of some of our team from last year. They're going to get two instructors who have designed a course, a class, a trip for them. And those two instructors are going to seek to know those students. They want to know you. They want to get to know you. They want to know your heart and your story. And they're going to be willing to share their own heart and their own story. A community that is trusting can be built. So that's the first thing that's going to happen. The second thing that will happen on every Coldwater trip is that every student on that trip will be given significant opportunity to lead. They'll be given significant opportunity to try new things, to be challenged, to say the things that they want or how they think a problem should be solved. That's core to our model. People have to be challenged, be given responsibility. It's a responsibility that's the great developer of people. And so we put students into situations where they have to wrestle with options and make decisions. Their leaders will try to protect those problems for the students to solve, and not just kind of be bossy and be telling them what to do. So here's a leader in this picture working through, okay, he's asking a question. Where do you think we are? Where do you think we should go? What are your ideas? What do you see? And in that method, those students are beginning to think and to practice making decisions and saying what they think. It's very powerful in terms of leadership development. And the third thing that will happen on every trip is that our leaders will challenge that dominant cultural value that who you are is whatever you see within. They'll point to a God who is a God of love and a God who has compellingly given us a vision for who we are and who we can become. And that gets done, over and over and over. So let me just share just a little bit about how it works out on a trip. So if I was to open here, I'm going to open to Ephesians. There's a great passage in Ephesians. But all things that are exposed are made manifest by the light, for whatever makes manifest is light. Therefore, he says, awake, you who sleep, arise from the dead, Christ will give you light. Then it says, see then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. So there's some principles there, right? To walk circumspectly. Circumspectly, that word means look up. Like look around you, lift your head up. That's just a basic thing, right? Pay attention to what's going on around you. My wife and I did a trip back in 1992, before we were married, and we jumped into this trip at Wheaton College. It was probably one of the first experiences like this that I had. And 4 or 5 days into the trip, it was my turn to lead. I was given the map and the compass and given the responsibility of guiding the group. And I felt pretty confident. I had my trip with Vince under my belt, right? I felt like, I grew up in that environment. I felt pretty sure of myself. And so we finished paddling. We were on the Ontonagon River. We finished a paddling section. We resupplied for backpacks, and we were beginning a section of the North Country Trail in Upper Peninsula, Michigan. Really rugged section of trail, super, super cool. It began to rain basically just as we started to hike. And the rainstorm that Vince and I encountered was just, I don't know, maybe an hour, 2 hours. Maybe it was only 20 minutes, actually. We were asleep. I don't know. But this actually was the most rainfall that they had in 20 years in Upper Peninsula, Michigan. It was a massive, massive system that came through. Rained for 5 days, poured for 3 days. And an hour into that hike, we were just hiking through a deluge of rain. It was horrible. I made some hasty decisions about where we would set up our shelters that night. We woke up in the morning, and my course instructor, James is his name, was in a puddle. I had put him in a puddle. That basically is what I did. He woke up wet. Gracious guy, super patient, not necessarily happy. But it was when I looked at him, I realized what I had done, and I realized I had to do better. I had to pay closer attention. I had to look up. We hiked that day a long while. We got to a place where we didn't know where we were, but our conversation was, where should we go? Where should we go? Trying to figure out where to go. Where's the next, how are we going to get to that destination that he gave us? And we were hunkered around the map, just kind of looking and talking. And finally I look up, and James is doing this, and he's pointing to a sign that is a trailhead that is telling us where we are. And the lesson, and I think he spoke it at that point, is before you can figure out where to go, you have to know where you are. You have to know where you are. And look up. Walk circumspectly. Pay attention to what's up and out from beneath your nose. You know, what a good life lesson. Like, just kind of painful, actually, for me, you know, because I had to learn that in failure. But I'll never forget it, you know. And I think some of my own habits when I lead have to do with being careful that I'm seeing everything that is around me, that I am looking up and paying attention. The lessons, the biblical lessons, the principles that come out of the Bible get woven into our character when they become experiential. When we can walk in those principles, when we can fail in the midst of working it out and then learn the principle. And then when we come back to the Word, it's like, oh, there it is. It's been there all along, but I read it differently. And now I know it because I've gone through it and experienced it. I think that's what we're after. We're after hearts that live deeply. We're after hearts that are whole and complete, and who will live long lives of faithfulness, and not only be able to say the true things that are written in the Word. We want to live the Word. And I am so, all of our staff are so passionate about using the backcountry classroom to get to those principles, because you don't forget them when you live them. That's the heart of the Coldwater ministry. That's how it works. So 2 instructors get paired with 7 students. Those instructors have gone through 6 weeks of training. We do a 3-week training trip. That 3-week training trip actually begins in 2 weeks. Eric and I are leading together this year, and we just, one of us was talking about how much ice there is on Sawbill Lake. There's 40 inches of ice on Sawbill Lake 4 days ago, and still, all, you know, I mean, your ice auger doesn't even go down that far, you know. So we're backpacking or snowshoeing for the first section of the course, but we have a plan. You know, we have a plan for our student leader group, and we'll be out for about 17 days with them. They do 10 days of wilderness first responder, which is a wilderness medical certification that we bring an outside school in to teach, and then we do 2 weeks of training in the classroom around the topic of, you know, what is the role of an instructor? You know, how am I a spiritual guide when I'm out in the backcountry? How am I teaching faith, opening the Bible, leading Bible studies? What is the role of the instructor as a small group facilitator? What is the role of the instructor as a one-on-one counselor, as a skill trainer, as someone who helps a student translate an experience? You know, I experienced these things out in the wilderness, but what does it have to do with the rest of my life? Well, walk circumspectly. Walk with your head up. There's a good example. A conversation would happen. What will you do with this now? So then in July we run wilderness trips all summer. Basically, we have I think 140 openings. I think we're well over 100. We're over 110 registered. That's students anywhere from, you know, 7th grade up through high school, and then we have about another 10 or 12 trips that are done with existing groups that are coming up to lead, or to be led, and to, you know, to take a trip. I think that my passion is for our leaders. We'll have 12 there this summer. Out in the backcountry, and we'll have almost, you know, 12, 14 as a support team back in camp. My passion is for those students to find their place, to learn their own tendencies in serving, to learn what their strengths are, to put those strengths to use in making our place better and conducting experiences that really honor the Lord and create opportunities for young people. Wonderful things happen. Lives do get transformed really and changed in indelible ways because those experiences are very powerful. So that's kind of an overview of Coldwater and what we're doing. We're really blessed to be at Mink Lake Wilderness Camp. It was previously owned by Trout Lake Camps. We had opportunity to purchase it in 2015, and by through a series of miracles is what I would call it, we were able to make that happen. And don't have any debt on the property and are able to continue building that place, making that place better, improving it, and making it a hospitable place for all who come there. I'll tell one more short story, and then we can maybe do a Q&A. Can you put that last photo up? Okay. This is one of my favorite stories, and again, I think it illustrates something. A couple things came out of it for me. I was leading a group from northwest Iowa. This is several years ago. And so, we loaded those vans on campus in Iowa, drove about a 9-hour trip to get up there, left early in the morning, got to camp, unpacked, repacked, loaded canoes onto trailers, and headed into an entry point, and we went into the Boundary Waters on that day. So really hectic. We travel from, you're on Interstate, 75 miles an hour, and then we're on we're on Highway 61, and we're down to 55 miles an hour. Then we're on the Gunflint Trail, 50 miles an hour, and then we're on Trout Lake Road, and now we're going 35 miles an hour, and now you're on Mink Lake Road, which is just a little 2-track, and you're just 5 miles an hour, unless you're Micah. And then we're working on that. He's got to be an example this summer. And then, you turn the van off, right? And you just kind of, you've been just sitting in a van for 9 hours, and you just listen to the fluids drain out of the vehicle, and eventually you get out of the van, and you get the stuff done to get packed and get back in the vans and so it's a busy day. We paddled across a couple of carries, into a lake, searched for a campsite, found a campsite, set up shelters, had some instructional times, fire going, we did dinner. By the time we finished dinner, it's just dark. And, when you come out of the city and you come out of busyness and you come out of a routine that is just frenetic, imagine finishing college and all that's happening this week right now, final exams, final papers, commencement, saying goodbyes, and then, the next day you're in the Boundary Waters, and you haven't stopped at all. And now you're just around the glow of the fire, and I'm wondering, how are we going to end the night? And I suggest, let's just go down to the water. We'll just go and have a prayer along the water's edge. We walked away from the fire, and it was like, this is a friend took this, but this is basically what we saw. Away from any other light, looking up at the stars and seeing the reflection of the night sky on the water. And so this is where we are and what we're looking at. And I invite everyone to pray. Go ahead and pray. We'll pray. I'll close, when we're done. And you know that feeling when you're leading a prayer time and you're not sure if you gave the instructions right? Like you're wondering, did they understand that they're supposed to pray and that I was going to close, and how long do I wait? Nobody prays. And I wait. I'm pretty bold, you know. I'll wait quite a while. And I did, and nobody prayed. And then what I realized is that everyone was praying. You know, the heavens declare the glory of God. We have distanced ourselves from what He has made to show us Himself with so much technology and noise and light and frenetic pace of life and media and movies and apps and always needing to be available, that we often miss what is right before our eyes. You know, a perfect message, a perfect picture of a God who is a creator, who did that, and who also longs to transform us, make us into the people that He intends us to be. So we didn't need to have a planned prayer or even a passage of Scripture read. And look what happened. People drawn into relationship, talking with the Lord, and having wonder at how He has knit things together. Isn't that amazing? I mean, that's just amazing. And we get to have these experiences all the time. Sometimes the challenge is just to not get in the way, you know, just to not get in the way. So it's a great privilege to lead in this place. We're very passionate about expanding and making this more and more available to people, and also in becoming better, more skilled in the craft of leading, facilitating conversation with our students, helping them to, you know, tell about their life, and also taking them to God's Word and working that out, you know, in ways that are authentic and that will be long lasting, long faithfulness in the same direction. So let's do a Q&A. If anyone has some questions, I can take questions, and you can even ask what kind of fish are in Mink Lake if you want, or rainbow trout. Yeah, it's actually a growing problem for us because as anywhere on the planet, there's more and more availability to signals. So we're still, even though we're a place apart, we're still having to program to keep that separate. But I mean, going into the boundary waters, yeah, most places you're not going to get a signal at all. Yeah. So we like it when there's not a signal for ourselves too. Like this isn't about kids are struggling with that, and you know, we're all in this together. We're all in the fog together. You know, so we want to be fully present with each other, and we have to be very intentional about making that happen. Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully we see some. Hopefully we don't run into them. But there are several wolf packs. Yeah, for sure, in northern Minnesota. Like it's kind of cool when you see tracks, and it's special if you see them on the road. But bears, you know, there's definitely problems. We had a lot of bears in town actually 2 years ago because we had such a terrible blueberry harvest, and there just wasn't food. So they start to just, they need to put on weight. So we had some problems, but we really haven't had any at camp. We've been very careful about how we keep things clean.
I'm just going to, I don't know if we're on mic. I'm just going to repeat the questions so that people online can hear.
Okay, so is Coldwater on its own lake, or is it a public lake? So we have 2 lakes, but don't tell anybody. We have Mink Lake, which is in front, and it's a very public lake. There's a public kind of swim area, beach. There's a road that comes along the south shore of the lake, and it gets fished quite a bit. It's a stocked rainbow and splake lake. But just north of us, there's a lake just as big. It's called Boys Lake, and it has, the access is really through our property. There's another little trail there that goes through, but we hardly see anybody on it. And it very much, it feels like our own private lake. It's much more tucked away, yeah. So, yeah, Mink Lake and Boys Lake. Yeah, so the question is, where do our kids come from? We for a long time, we had a lot of kids coming from Minnesota and Iowa. Some really strong connections for us down in Iowa. Now we're tied into a homeschool network. We're tied into some other organizations. We're getting kids coming from Arkansas, from Texas, from Colorado, from I think we have some California this year, Virginia. Really? Oh, Virginia. We've got Wisconsin for sure. A big group coming from Wisconsin. So we're starting to see a lot more interest from farther away, and so then it's the problem of logistics and kids flying in and picking them up and that kind of thing. Yeah. So yeah, growing like that for sure. Yeah, they can fly into Duluth, and then we pick them up at Duluth. And then usually we're encouraging parents to come and pick their kids up, even though it means a trip, because we do a parent day at the end. And at the end, there's a celebration, and we really create this opportunity for the students to share what happened for them on the trip. So parents get to meet leaders. They get to hear their son or their daughter talk about the experience that they had and then ask questions about it. And it's kind of a fun family day. But we could do it either way. Logistics, it's challenging.
So your workers are probably doing the same, coming from all over the place now? I assume some people that come there as campers eventually become workers. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. And I would say, what do we have this year? We have New York, we have Texas, we have Minnesota, Montana. Oh yeah, Montana. We've got Iowa for sure. There's 3 students coming from Northwestern College in Iowa. North Carolina, we've had kind of a connection in North Carolina. We've had New York State. We had a leader from Switzerland, actually, for a few years. Andreas came. He was great. So yeah, we're kind of pull people from lots of different areas. I think it is. Yeah, I know it is. I think it's pretty unique to do youth group, or pretty standard to do youth group trips, where a youth group will come with their leader and then go out on a trip. We've done some of those. We don't prefer it, actually. We prefer the kids to sign up independently and to enroll in a group where they don't know any other people. And I think that's very unique, to Christian camping and church, trips like that. And the reason we like that is, first of all, if we have 2 leaders on the trip, and then there's a youth pastor on the trip, who usually always has a stronger relationship with those students, it starts to kind of interrupt some of the problem solving. But when you're in a group and you don't know anyone, well, that could be a little bit scary, but also, you're not stereotyped into, being one way. You can try some stuff. So there's some advantages like that too. Yeah. Okay, yeah, great question. Do we have cabins, and what do the shelters look like? So at Mink Lake Wilderness Camp, we have 4 log cabins that each sleep 12, and then staff are, we have a canvas tent and a yurt and old wilderness cabin, and there's unknown accommodation that we haven't figured out yet what to do. But so the base camp has cabins, has outhouses, we'll have hot water to the kitchen, we'll have a hand washing, facility, a classroom, whiteboard, lodge. But when we go out in the Boundary Waters, it's all shelters that we carry with us. Sometimes those shelters are tents. Sometimes we just use flat tarps and an Army issue bug net. They're lighter to carry, so everyone likes that. But they're also you'd be more creative in setting them up. You have to learn how to tie knots and untie knots, you have actually a lot more flexibility in how you do shelters. Yeah.
How did COVID affect your program?
Yeah. So how did COVID affect our program? The outcome of COVID is that I think it really helped us. Like, I think the Lord used that to create more opportunities for people. I think people just got cabin fever and just wanted, where can I go? Well, we can go outside. The first year, we had to cancel everything. But what we were able to do is we had a staff ready to come. And we invited them anyway. We said, okay, here's the deal. We don't have any programs to run, and we can't pay you, but do you want to come anyway? And they all did. Well, one decided to flip his year, but they all came. And so then we did our wilderness leadership expedition, our training trip. We ran a whole bunch, just a kind of a program that help them to really dig deep with their faith. By the end of the summer, we were able to do some family trips. We were able to have a very positive season just with that group, which was great because then we had a head start. We had a bigger group of students to draw from the next year, 2021, and we had a banner year. I mean, we had a huge group that came, and this year's even more. So I think I'm glad we didn't just shut everything down and do nothing. We had to kind of work around just like everyone, but it was very powerful, year for us. Yeah. Just a few. We've only lost a few. No, we haven't lost anyone. For sure, I've been out leading and had questions about where we were, because especially when we do some bushwhacking and backpacking, and we're not just staying with a trail on a trail. We want to get to where we can use map and compass. We're just, following the compass needle. And often when you're doing that, you really feel lost, and you really have to trust. That's that thing again, what's dependable? It's a thing that's outside of ourselves, and that's just such a great illustration of that they get to practice. But you often feel lost in that, So But yeah, I don't think we've had any complete losses. Yeah, yet. Yeah, okay, Mike's question is how long are the groups there for? So it depends on the program. Service team is a high school program that's 5 weeks long. So that's probably our longest youth program. That's a trip that Micah did. And that trip, they do a trip that's about 10 days to 2 weeks, somewhere in that area, 10 days. And then they're there before and after and doing projects. And they're a group that's a program that feels like camp is more a home for them. But some of the youngest age groups programs are 5 days long, 7 days long, 8 days long, a 10-day, a 2-week, and then our training trip is 2.5 weeks out, just out in the wilderness for that long. Yeah. Our core leadership group are there from May 15 all the way through August the 4th, and we're hoping that they'll stay a little bit longer because we've got, but they got to get back to college or whatever. So, yeah, we try to keep them as long as possible. Yep. Yeah, storms come through. We don't always know what it's going to be or what the result is. I had friends, that was the 99 blowdown, the big one. I had friends out in that, and trees falling in their campsite. It was, very, very challenging time. Yeah, storms are a reality, and no, we don't have any kind of real way to predict exactly, what a storm is going to be. So, well, even if we did, we'd still, you can almost see better than what the radio would tell us, just looking out and paying attention to what it feels like outside and what's the wind doing. Did it shift? Is there, is it getting darker? It's like you can figure it out, and then, but the challenge then is to respond, to not ignore it, to respond and to make shelter, to get off the water, things like that. Yeah, but it's, that's the thing about wilderness. It's real. It's real wilderness. It's not like, looking into a wilderness area from a pavilion or from a boardwalk, where you can get back in your car, which is cool that some of the places that we can see. But out there in the Boundary Waters, Superior National Forest, some of these areas, Wabakimi up in Canada, you're out. And so you have to deal with what comes. Yeah. What do you eat besides fish? Yeah, fish is good. What do we eat besides fish? Yeah, hopefully we're eating some fish. Yeah, we have a real variety. It's actually one of our teaching tools is a food system that helps our participants interact with the food and figure out, what makes a good meal. So there's balance there. We want good protein to build up muscles. We want good nutrients, especially for those longer trips. We want good healthy carbs. You're able to eat more calories because your output is so much more. But so we have a pretty wide selection of, foods that are like dried fruits and vegetables and bannock that can be made, like bread that we can make. We can make pizza. We can bake. We can do hobo dinners. Some of the meals that happen on the edge of a resupply are, we can get a little more lavish and have some things that are really fun. We can bake cake and do things like that. Yeah, so a pretty good variety. Pasta, eat a lot of rice and beans, tortillas, burritos. No rabbit and squirrel unless, sometimes. Not planned, unplanned squirrel. Right, right. Yeah, those are trip foods. Yeah. Did you eat a squirrel last summer? Okay. Possible. Yeah. Good questions. Any other questions? We have adult trips too. Yeah, I mean we're gonna this fall there's gonna be at least one, maybe two women's trips that go out in September. Often we're doing men's trips. We're doing, we have trips that go out there. Usually those trips are shorter. We're maybe out for 3 nights. And just kind of a short, we're not trying to, actually challenge is not the main theme in that. The main theme would be like good conversation, actually. Just being out, being away, getting unplugged, and having a bit of an adventure, but being together in a different setting and exploring our faith with one another. So we're not just a youth program. We're doing things for people of all ages. So yeah. Okay, I think the 5-day trips are in the 300 kind of range, 390 or something like that. It's about $75 a day is kind of like our baseline of where we start, and then we kick it up or down based on first meal, last meal, but that's kind of where we start our pricing. Yeah. Did you have a question? Same question. Okay. Yeah, pricing. Yeah, we're right about that. The in-camp, we do a few in-camp retreats as well, and pricing is a little less than that per person per day. I should mention also, how many of you have been to Mink Lake Wilderness Camp? Okay, so remember the kitchen? Yeah, Dean, it would. Yeah. Well, we tore it down. We tore the kitchen, just the kitchen. So not the whole dining, not the lodge, but just the 16 by 16 kitchen. We were trying to figure out what to do with it, and the corner was sinking. We had rotting in the foundation. There was no poured foundation there at all. It was all boards and logs. So we tore it down. I wish I had a picture because, no, were you there when we tore it? No, but your sister was. Naomi was. Oh, she was a beast with a sledgehammer. Yeah. It was really fun actually, but we tore the kitchen down, and then we poured concrete last fall, and last fall we framed up the new building. This week we're going into our second coat of mud. We'll paint. We're getting a little close to the wire here, but we'll paint and hopefully move in a new stove and a few interior walls. But it's gonna be a beautiful kitchen. It'll be 22 by 24, so we gained quite a bit of space. We'll have I put in floor heat. So and we also trenched in our water line. So the water line at Mink Lake runs 500 feet, and it was only 1.5 feet under the surface. So we dug that up and trenched in 500 feet of water line, 7 feet down, insulated it. So there's still work to be done there, but long story short, we're going to have a 4-season kitchen and be able to serve out of there year-round. So. Yeah, great question. Do we do winter activities? We do winter camping, yeah. We have a few groups that come in and do retreats, but we have a winter tripping model. We're looking to grow it. We do a couple of groups every year. But multi-day trips out in the winter is just, it's so beautiful out there, but to go out and to stay in it, and to learn how to do that, a whole different set of skills for that course area. But yes.
But you're accessible obviously winter year round. It's gotta be tough, I would guess, that whole stretch, right?
It is, and this well, you know how hard it was this winter. It was just like World War III. I mean, it was really, really hard to keep the road open all winter. Yeah. So, but we did. We plowed it. We have a little tractor with a blower. You know, we just kind of got to stay on top of it. But yeah, so it feels all the more special when you get in there. Winter saunas, and you know, cutting a hole in the ice, going through the ice, and doing that is really special. You know, good times. Yeah. Great questions. I think that I'll leave with this. You know, obviously we're growing as a ministry. We'd love for you to be involved in any way you want to. I know for certain we'll have a couple students up from this church, and Naomi and Michael will be up, and together as a staff, they'll probably be sending out a prayer letter asking for your prayers for the summer, updating their support network on the things that are happening in our ministry. They'll give you an opportunity if you'd like to give to the ministry, to their work, their summer of service. You can do that through that, but that gives them a way to interact with you about the work that's getting done. Also, we're not full yet. I mean, we still have openings. Our leadership team is full. We've been through the interviews and have that, but we still have openings for trips, especially the old trips for the older students. So you can go online, coldwaterfoundation.org. You can find all the information there about trips, read about them, see what's happening. Also, if you're a first responder or you kind of have an interest in learning wilderness medicine, we have a wilderness first responder course that takes place, I think it's June 6th through 14. There's a 4-day version, and then there's the full woofer version. That's an internationally known certification. It's a fantastic course, and that's open. We have spots available if you want to be involved in that. So, yeah, any other questions? Yeah.
Do you have a scholarship system going that helps students that maybe can't afford the
Yes. Question about scholarships. We do. We have a couple different ways of doing scholarships. We have donors that give specific scholarship money. It's great because even though like our price point is really low. I mean, we all raise support. You know, we're kind of a missionary mindset. That's allowed us to keep the prices really, really low, and yet it's still expensive. You know, it's still expensive to go and do an experience like that and have two leaders be with you the whole time and not want to rush. You know, relationships are a really high value for us, and so we don't rush people in and out like an outfitter would. You just have to turn over. They got to put thousands of people through, but we have a lot more flexibility in that. So we have a scholarship program. We've never turned anyone away because they couldn't pay, and if that meant that they came for free, we would welcome them. And yeah, so that's there. And then we also have a fundraiser that you can do. Kids can sell coffee. It's locally roasted coffee. They can sell up to 20 bags and raise $100 toward their trip. So that's a little something. There's a worksheet online that we guide people to. They can kind of figure out what they'd like to ask for, and then we try to help out where we can. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I should talk about that more. Yes. That go together. Yeah, that's a great question. For specific information on trips, look on the website, and you can just go to youth programs and scroll down, and you'll see, because sometimes it is like 11, 12-year-olds are paired together, and then there's some where there's like the younger trip and an older trip together. There's some continuity to it, but there's enough variety that I can't just off the top of my head. But it really begins at 11 years old and then goes up to 18 for those July trips. Yeah.
Well, then, we thank you very much, Kevin, for your time this evening and for driving down, and let's give him a hand.
Yeah. Thanks for asking so many great questions. It's really wonderful to be here.
Well, I have one final question. Just how big are your mosquitoes up there?
There's what mosquitoes? There's no mosquitoes up north.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, with that, thank you all very much for coming and joining us. And the gentlemen will both probably be in the lobby for a little bit. They do have a long drive, so we don't want to keep them all night long. But you are welcome to.
I'm going to his.
Oh, you are? Okay. All right. Well, then you don't have so far of a drive. But nonetheless, thank you all for coming, and we will see you on Sunday morning at 10:30. Have a safe trip home.